Hello, welcome back to Blake's Den and my 1989 Austin Mini Designer, which has been a project ongoing for far too long now. Whilst the subframe's off, I want to make some progress and I want to recondition the rear hubs. By that I mean replace the bearings and paint them. So why am I replacing the bearings? Well, I don't know if you can hear that, but it's a very rough sounding bearing, and also all the grease is sort of solidified and gone horrible in there. So that hub would normally sit like that. It'd be on the stub axle, and obviously the wheel mounts on. If you want to see how to remove a hub, see my previous video. I'll put a link above. The hub has two bearings in it. They're both taper roller bearings. Taper roller bearings are always used in pairs, so you've got that one there, which is the outer one, and then that one there, which is the inner one, which also has an oil seal. Now, they can be tricky to remove. You can get a bearing puller, which sort of goes in and sits on that groove and pulls them out. But I've previously replaced these on my Mini Cooper just on my garage floor using a hammer and a pry bar and a chisel. And basically, yeah, just putting something down the inside, hitting that groove, and then basically slowly forcing the bearing out. It obviously kills the bearings, but these bearings are dead anyway, and they're going to be replaced. So I'm going to put this in the vise, start hammering, and hopefully the bearings will just come out. So this is what I was talking about. Get a pry bar down there, just sitting on the lip, so that'll fire out the inner bearing, fire it downwards. So tap that, and then if I tap it at sort of 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock, it should gradually work that bearing out. So cue the time lapse. Okay, so that was interesting because the bearing has just fallen apart. So there's one ball bearing. There's another ball bearing. And that's the inner race popped out. So you can see missing bearings. So yeah, that was worth doing. So I'll just turn it over, do the same, and then I'll just got to deal with the outer race. To get the outer races out, exact same process, but we are now aiming for that point there, where there's sort of a gap. And if you look around the opposite side, there's another gap there. So we'll hit on those points, and hopefully they'll just drop out. Yes, you can see those were well past their best. You can see how solidified the grease is. It wasn't really doing anything. So, great. So with those both out, I'm going to take the opportunity to get this all cleaned up and degreased, both on the outer faces and on the inner faces. Just need to quickly correct myself. I was expecting them to be taper roller bearings, but obviously there was a ball bearing in there. They are just ball bearings, a plain bearing. That is the new one, which is a taper roller bearing. You can see it's rollers on a taper. I wasn't even aware you could get plain ball bearing type bearings for minis. When I've looked into it, they tended to be fitted is like originally from the factory. That may be the original bearing. I'm not sure. But anyway, the taper roller bearings going in, they're far better. They can resist axial loads better than the plain bearings. So consider it an upgrade. That's the hub all cleaned up, all the rust off it and degreased. I used a wire wheel in my pillar drill, which is something I saw Alan Milliard do on his YouTube channel. If you haven't watched him, check him out. He's fantastic. Obviously you could just do it in a cordless drill, but it just seemed a bit easier just being able to hold the piece up to the wheel rather than move the drill towards the piece, if that makes sense. Obviously you don't have to do this if you're just changing your wheel bearings, but I want to clean that up, which I've done, and paint it so it's all nice and pretty when it's assembled on the car. The hub has been painted now. using some sort of anti-rust metal paint sort of stuff. I just chose this one because it was sitting on the floor right next to where I was standing. The next job is to get the outer races of the bearings in. So I'm just going to sit that in there. Then I've got a large socket I'm going to sit on top and sort of drive it in using that socket until it's firmly in place. And then we can think about putting the taper rollers in. That's the both bearing races in, both the inner and the outer, if you want to call them that. I ended up using the old race off the old bearing, sat it in, socket on, big hammer to send it home. So all good. And also as well, I used a bit of just GT85 lubricant just to help it go in, and it went in fairly easy. So the next job I was going to do was going to put the oil seal in, but I don't think I can actually do that until the bearing race has gone in. So I'm going to do the bearings next. Now, it's not as straightforward as just dropping them in there, because you need to pre-grease the bearings and also need to clean up those surfaces. So clean it all up and I'll show you what I mean about greasing them. It's time for the messy job. I've made sure the inner race is all clean and free of debris, as is the bearing. And we need to grease this bearing. So my bearings came with some ExxonMobil long life grease in a little bag. And what we need to do is we need to get it all over these rollers and then work it in. And basically, you don't just want to coat the outside, you want grease all the way inside the bearing here to ensure that it's got long life. So I'm going to put some of that on. And I'm just going to really sort of rub it into the rollers and get the rollers moving. And you can see how that big dollop has soon sort of disappeared. So I'm just going to keep doing that until I'm happy that we've got grease in them. You've got to remember that the grease in here, it's got to do both the sort of inner and outer bearing as well. So I have got some more grease should I run out. So yeah, I'm just going to proceed with this. I'm confident that they are well greased now. So I now need to put it inside the hub. So get that one in there, drop that in there, that's nicely greased. And then I need to drop the oil seal in, and the oil seal goes on the sort of inner side. So if you imagine the wheel bolts on the wheel studs, that's the outer side. And the oil seal goes in this side. So similar method, I'll just gently hammer that in with the socket. And yeah, that should be that side done. The other bearing is retained by the hub nut, so that will just float around for now. And then it's protected by the dust cap. So I've got the oil seal in, both bearings in. Now, if this was you and you were rebuilding this on your Mini, you'd go and put it on the stub axle now. But my stub axle's not even on the car. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to put a cable tie through here to keep everything intact and together. And then I'm going to put that inside a sandwich bag to keep all any dust and debris out of it. And that can go back in the bag, ready for reassembly on the car when the time is right. That's the near side hub all done and finished and ready to go into storage before I rebuild the subframe. And by the magic of the interweb, there's the offside one done as well. So I just did the exact same process. Actually did it when the camera was off. I did the other side. So I just did it all at the same time. So they're ready to go on the subframe. So I have got a new subframe. I'll say it's a new subframe. It's actually a reconditioned old subframe. So a genuine one which has been cleaned, repaired and powder coated. So I've got that to go on, but I think the next thing I need to do is to rebuild the radius arms, get those stripped, get those cleaned, get those back together, get the hubs on, then I can start putting the radius arms on the subframe. So I hope you enjoyed that video. It's just a very short update, but it shows you the kind of thing you can do if you've got a spare hour or a couple of hours to do. Sometimes it's a bit daunting when you've got a project as big as this, but you know, you've so many tasks to do, but just break it down into little chunks and just do things like that. And then, you know, it'll all come together very quickly. So thank you for watching. As usual, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. I've still got the majority of my viewers are unsubscribed. So if that's you, press that subscribe button now. Really want to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, the end of 2022. So if you do that, it makes a massive difference to me and how visible the channel is on YouTube. So thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.